Hi folks, in this lesson, I'm going to show you the number one tip I teach to my clients when it comes to managing transactions that are downloaded from the bank into QuickBooks Online. This tip is guaranteed to reduce the amount of frustration and confusion when it comes to looking at the financial statements after the transactions have been categorized. Hi, my name is Hector Garcia. I'm a CPA and a QuickBooks trainer, and I want to thank Divvy for sponsoring this video. So I had Stephen here from Divvy who's going to chat with us towards the end of the video. Okay, let's jump right to it. So once you connect your bank into QuickBooks Online, we're going to click on Transactions, Banking, and be aware that at any point in time when QuickBooks doesn't know what a transaction is and it believes it might be a transfer between bank accounts or from a bank account to a credit card, you are going to see a category or an automatic categorization of uncategorized asset. That account bears absolutely no purpose in the QuickBooks system. It was created because QuickBooks honestly had no idea what option to give people, and they assumed that people would understand that that is something that they know how to easily fix and recategorize later on. So because of that, my number one ask, and I will ask you, is to change the name of the account to something that reminds you not to use that category. So how do you do that? We're going to click on the accounting tab on the left hand side, and then we're going to go into chart of accounts. When you go into chart of accounts, here where it says filter by name, you're going to search uncategorized. You're going to see three accounts: uncategorized asset, uncategorized income, and uncategorized expense. I actually have nothing against uncategorized income. I'm okay with that account, but we're going to rename both uncategorized asset and uncategorized expense. Bear with me, trust me on this. Let's start with uncategorized asset. I'm going to click on the little triangle next to view register, and then I'm going to click on edit. That will take me to the edit screen, and I'm going to change that to do not use, 3 exclamation marks. Then I'm going to click on save and close. So I am hoping that uncategorized asset, if it shows up in your bank feeds, you are reminded that that is the wrong account to use. Now under uncategorized expense, I actually don't have an issue with that name, but I'm going to change it to something else. I'm going to click on the little triangle in the actions column, click on edit, and then I'm going to click in here, ask my accountant, for 2 reasons. One, if you have an accountant, you should, at the end of your work, probably leverage your accountant to help you with that. The second reason is we need an account to put things temporarily so we can move on, right? Many times when people are doing categorization, they don't know what one transaction is, and they stop and they research and they look at emails, they look at receipts, and they stop the work, and it slows you down. I've actually preferred that you move on, put it into this category, and then go back to recategorize it later. Do not use a miscellaneous account, because that's going to cause even more confusion. Now, if you don't have Ask My Accountant, then replace the word accountant to whomever in your office knows the most about QuickBooks, right? So if it's not an accountant that you have and it's not you, you're going to put John, Ask John, or Ask Mary, and then that will remind you to then ask that person to help you categorize those transactions. For now, let's assume we're going to just leave Ask My Accountant. Whether you have an accountant or not, it doesn't matter. That's the name we're going to give it. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save and Close, and then we're done. So let's go back into banking. I'm going to click on Transactions, then I'm going to click into Banking. So the very first thing is, if we actually get to the point where we get into a do not use, and you don't know what it is, again, you truly don't know what it is, you don't have time to research it now, I want you to change that from transfer or record as a credit card payment. Change that and click on categorized. Really, really important that you do that. Then you change the category from that to ask my accountant. Let's try it again. Ask my accountant. There it is. So I'm going to sign that into ask my accountant. What that will do is it will make everything that it doesn't know ask my accountant, and that's okay. What that will do is it will leave you a place to put it and then try to figure out later. Now, if you know what the vendor is, if you're 100% sure who the pay is, if who is being paid. And in this case, it is American Express. I just don't know which American Express is, whether it's the business one or the personal or whatever happens to be. For the time being, if I do know what the vendor name is, I do want you to put the vendor name where it says vendor and customer. If you don't have it, then you just create it. Create a new vendor, and so you can do that. Now, never create that as a customer. It confuses things. Always create them as a vendor. Then I'm going to click on save. So that I got that transaction categorized. It's going into Ask My Accountant. It's under the categorized checkbox there, not under one of the transfers. And then I'm going to click on confirm. So that's the first one. Second one is, let's say I do have a transaction that doesn't default as record as a transfer or record as a credit card payment, and it starts with categorized. Good, we're good to go with that. At that point in time, you can leave the payee blank. If you truly don't know who the payee is, or if you're going to try to find out that later, you will leave that blank. But never leave it blank if you know who the payee is. So even if you don't know what to categorize something, I am comfortable with you giving it a category. Sorry, for you giving it a payee name without knowing the category. I'm okay with that if you know the payee. But again, don't put anything in there, and don't let QuickBooks put something random in there. I prefer blank over something random. Something random would truly confuse you. So under category, we're going to put that under Ask My Accountant as well. We'll choose that category, and then we click on confirm. Third thing I'm going to show you is when you click on the gear menu on the top right, not the big gear menu on the top right, but the gear menu on the top right of the list of transactions. So this is going to be somewhere in the middle of the screen. If I'm scrolled all the way up right here on the right, once you click on that, you need to make sure, you got to make sure that there is a checkbox where it says copy bank detail to memo. You never want to leave this blank, and I'm going to explain why. If I leave copy bank detail to memo, and also in combination of the uncategorized, I pick one of these transactions. Let's say I pick this one, and I put this under Ask My Accountant. I am going to show you a little bit later on the negative consequences that this have, because at the moment I didn't put a vendor or payee. So that's the issue. If you're going to have a vendor or payee, you want that memo, this information that's here, the bank information, you want that to be in the memo so it gives you more relative information afterwards. Now, yes, you could take this information, copy it here, and paste it into the memo. You can do that. But if you want to avoid all that extra copy and pasting, that's where that handy little box is in there. We're going to click on that gear and click on copy bank detail to memo. Because when I do that, it automatically copies that information in there. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on confirm, because I guess I didn't put the vendor name in there. I left it blank because of whatever. I didn't know what the vendor name is. I left it blank, even though I want you to put a vendor name there. But again, we put it under Ask My Accountant. Then I'm going to click on confirm. Okay. So I entered a couple of transactions in Ask My Accountant. So what's my next step? So let's say, for example, I'm going to pull up a profit and loss. So I'm going to run a regular profit and loss for the whole year. And let's select here this year to date. And then we're going to look at our income and expenses, the stuff that has been categorized, hopefully correctly. And then there will be a category somewhere in here called Ask My Accountant. There it is. And there's the total number of total amount of transactions that are in Ask My Accountant. That's not going to be accurate. If it stays in there, that needs to be reclassified. I'm going to get to that in a second. So I'm going to click on that dollar amount, and that will give me a report. See, now officially I have a report of all the transactions that I'm pending to classify. The ones that I did know the payee name, I put it in there, and that's beautiful because I get to see the payee in there. And when you do put the payee in there, you get this extra really neat feature, which is when you click on group by, you put group by vendor, and I'll choose vendor right there. And I'll add a little tiny caveat. This little feature of grouping by vendor, it's only available on versions above Simple Start. So if you're working with QuickBooks Online Simple Start, the lowest version, you're going to see a blank line there, and you're not going to be able to choose by vendor. Unfortunately, that's a restriction of the Simple Start. But if you're working with Essentials Plus or Advanced, you will see that in there. So I'm going to click on Run Report. And then once I click on Run Report, you will see that my transactions will now be grouped by the vendors in which I actually chose the vendor name in the transaction. If I missed the vendor name, they're going to be grouped into their not specified. Not a big deal. We still have this memo description that was copied from the download that gives you a little bit of additional context whenever it comes to recategorizing that or putting it in the right place. But having that vendor in there does give you that additional really neat little feature of being able to group it by vendor when it comes to reorganizing these transactions. Let me show you. I'm actually going to click on these two that I forgot to put the vendor name. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to add the vendor or the payee in here. So I'm just going to copy and paste the vendor's name, which is Phila Insurance. I'm going to copy and paste in there. And then sometimes, I know this, sometimes you won't have vendor names in the description. For example, when you write a check, that requires you to do a little bit of extra work. But this time I'm going back in there, fixing it, putting the vendor name. I'm leaving it in Ask My Accountant because let's say I'm yet to know whether or not that's in the right place. I'm going to click on Save and Close. It's going to go back into my other report. Notice that now that's going to group them in there. Now I'm going to go into the check itself, and let's say that also happens to be the same vendor. So I'm going to put it right there under Phila Insurance, and then I'm going to click on Save and Close. So now when we go back into this report, which is the detail of Ask My Accountant group by vendor, this might give you a little bit extra context to then going back and saying, okay, I think I understand what these transactions are. Again, even if you don't put the vendor name, you got a memo and description to sort of catch it at the end and give you that additional context. But I think it is truly a beautiful thing when you get to group reports by vendor this way. Now, one more thing that you can do, which I really recommend, is you can click here where it says Save Customization, and we can call these Ask My Accountant Report. We click here where it says Share with All, and then I'm going to click on Save. If you don't have other users you want to share this with, you just put none, right? So we'll click on Save, and now we created and saved an active dynamic custom report that is always there to report on uncategorized transactions. Then I'm going to go into Reports. Then I'm going to click on Custom Reports. I'm going to find to my report called Transactions Report. I'm going to click on Edit again and put Ask My Accountant. I think I messed up with the name. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Save again. Okay, so the report is called the Ask My Accountant Report. Then I'm going to go back and edit it. I'm going to click on Set Email Schedule. And then I'm going to say on a daily basis, I'm going to pester someone about my uncategorized transactions. Or maybe on a weekly basis, maybe every Friday or every Monday, I want to pester someone about what's in here. So under 2, you're going to put the email of whoever you want to be looking at that report all the time, so they are alerted that things are not in the right category. And in here, we're going to put transactions to recategorize. Okay, and then we're going to click on Save and Close on the bottom right. And then you can also click on Attach Report in Excel if you want that to be in an Excel file. So that's really up to you whether or not you want to attach that extra Excel file, up to you. You click on Save and Close, and now QuickBooks is going to proactively all the time be telling people, hey, you got things under uncategorized. I'll add a little tiny caveat here, which is the date range. And it actually does warn you that, hey, you may want to check that date range to make sure that you're reporting on every single possible transaction. So if you see a funny date range is that you want it to be dynamic, what you do want to do is you want to open that report and you want to change it from a custom date range to all dates to make sure that this is going in the past, in the future, every possible transaction. Then we're going to click on Run Report, and that's going to include every transaction that you've ever done. Maybe possibly this fiscal year to date or this year to date might be a little bit better, just in case you got weird things from the past that you don't want to revisit. Again, up to you. This is going to be, if you pick here, not the custom one. If you pick all dates or something like this year to date, this report will be dynamic and include all those things, especially if you're going to be emailing and pestering someone in a weekly or daily basis. You want that. Okay, so we got that part done, which is make sure that you don't put anything on the categorized asset. Yes, put all the payee names all the time so you can get the reports. Memorize your Ask My Accountant report. Pester someone to make sure that this gets done or gets fixed correctly. Now I'm going to show you how to reclassify these transactions in batch. Now, I could go one by one and categorize these. For example, I can go into this American Express. I can open the transaction, And let's say that now I know for sure the business owner paid off some personal accounts, some personal Amex that doesn't belong to the business. Just go in there and recategorize this as owner's expense or something like that, and then put it where it belongs. Okay, so I'm going to put it under owner's draw. So I did one by one by clicking on it and recategorizing. However, if you got a whole bunch of the same, you can recategorize them all in one shot. So the way you recategorize is you have to go into this special link. You will not have access to this unless you're an accountant. You have to go to this special link. I'm going to put it in the description to get into the recategorizing screen. And this is what the reclassify transaction screen looks like. You literally have to copy and paste this URL that I'll put in the description. You have to copy and paste it in there and go into that URL manually after you're logged in to QuickBooks Online. Only accountants get direct access to that. If you're not an accountant, you actually have to know that URL. So that's a little pro tip for you. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and change the date range here. I'm going to put, let's say, the whole year. And then once the whole year is done, on the left-hand side, I'm going to go look for Ask My Accountant. I'm going to click on Ask My Accountant, and then I'm going to have a list of all the transactions inside Ask My Accountant. From here, I can sort these by customer or vendor just simply by clicking on customer vendor, or I can click on more filters and I can filter it and say only show me transactions for this particular customer or vendor. In this case, they're blank, or show me the ones for fill-out, which is the one that we have in here, and then only show me those. Now, the reason for that is because you can filter, group, and sort. Then you can reclassify all the transactions all in one shot. Again, your accountant might be the one doing this if you actually are leveraging an accountant. But besides the point, I think it's important for you to know kind of how this process looks like. So let's say you know which fill insurance is. It is in fact insurance. You're going to click on this little checkbox that says select all, or that selects all. That selects all the transactions that were filtered for that particular vendor or payee. Then you're going to click on the big button that says reclassify, and then you change that account to insurance or whatever the category that the correct category that is supposed to be. Then you click on apply, and voila. Once I go back into reports and I go into the custom reports and I click on Ask My Accountant report, nothing else is in there. When the email gets sent, it would basically be a blank. So that's always a good thing. All right. If you want to learn more tips, especially when it comes to banking, bank reconciliations, or being more efficient and speedy when it comes to QuickBooks Online, I recommend you take my banking course. I'm going to put the link in the description below, and you can find my banking course right here in my Teachable portal. And right here, it's called Mastering Online Banking. Now, this course I used to sell for $200, and Divvy, the sponsor of this video, said that they'll pay me per student that shows up, and in exchange they'll have your email address and they'll send you their contact information because they're hoping that you check out their app. So all you have to do is click here where it says access full course. It's going to prompt you to purchase the course for $200. You're going to click on add coupon code, and you're going to type the word Divvy, DIVVY, and then click on apply. So once you do that, the $200 come off, and it's 100% a free course for you to buy. Just go through the purchase process. It won't ask you for a credit card, and you will have access to my complete course. It is the best course I have ever taught on banking, bank reconciliations, categorizing transactions, all of these topics that are related to what this video covered. All right, Stephen, what do you think about that?
I think that's great, Hector. I used to run a virtual bookkeeping service, and if I had known those tips, I would have saved a ton of time for myself and my team.
Stephen, tell us why Divvy is sponsoring this training program that I put together, which I normally charge for, but Divvy decided to pay me for every student that shows up. So obviously, we thank you for that quite a bit. But tell us a little bit about Divvy, and then tell us why you think Divvy is a good fit for someone like me that does QuickBooks Online education.
Absolutely. Divvy plugs in seamlessly with QuickBooks Online, and small business owners and accountants are using Divvy to level up their spend management experience. It's the leading tool for helping finance teams and business owners stay on top of their spend, get real-time visibility and control into it, and know exactly what's going on with the cash management in their company.
And how much does Divvy cost to the small business?
This is one of the greatest things about it is we are completely free. We monetize just like a bank, which I'll show you, which means that we provide software for free, and we're truly on the same side as our customers and our partners.
Would you consider Divvy a credit card company, an expense management company? Are you a hybrid between the two?
You know, kind of a funny way to describe Divvy is it's sort of like if American Express and Expensify, which is a common expense management tool, if they had a baby and then gave it away for free. So we use the credit card as the lever to mobilize our software and make it useful for business owners and accounting teams. Hector, let me give you a quick demo on and show you why business owners and accountants are choosing Divvy to help manage their spend. They love it for three big things: easy, predictable access to credit, real-time expense management that gives them full visibility and control into what they're doing with their software and their expenses, and virtual cards that are helping increase their security, manage their vendor subscriptions, and automate a lot of the accounting processes on the back end. This is what it looks like when you jump in, and you can see businesses are underwritten. We underwrite a business with a line of credit. Super easy. It's just like you would go and apply to an Amex or a Capital One card for your business. We'll give a line of credit that allows you to operate with your business under flexible terms, get rewards and incentives for spending with us, and most importantly, it enables the software that's going to make your life a lot easier. Once you get set up with this credit limit, you can give everyone at your company a card and limit how much they spend. Let me show you what it looks like. Here's an example of the mobile app for someone who's using Divvy. So let's say I'm an employee at a company, and maybe I wear a lot of hats, and so I do a lot of different things. And let's say I'm a part of a sales team. I might only have a few dollars allocated for me to spend. That's the approval that I have to spend at any given time. But if I ever need more, I can request that instantly from my manager. It's sort of like, Forbes has called us the Venmo for business. That's sort of accurate here in the sense that we're requesting funds, but really we're requesting the approval from our manager. So I can come in and I can say, hey, I need some extra money on my card to go do this. That approval gets sent to my manager. As soon as they hit approved, I now have the allocated amount to go spend what I need to get the job done. Once I go make that transaction, I'm going to get a notification on my phone that tells me how much I spent, where I spent it, and then requires of me a few additional fields that will help my company and my accounting team know exactly what I spent on. So as soon as I swipe my card, maybe before the cashier even hands me my receipt, I get a notification that's asking me a couple of extra things. This example shows, okay, what department am I a part of? And how am I going to code this back to our QuickBooks Online account, right? I'm out traveling. I'm going to mark it as travel. I can come down and take a picture of my receipt and add that into the transaction, maybe even put an additional note in. And as soon as I do all that, my transaction is complete and I'm good to go. So our finance team on the other end is going to see those transactions in real time and know exactly what was going on. They're going to see who made the transaction, how much it was, what budget it was a part of, and what it's been categorized to. They can click in, see more details, edit anything that they need to, and make sure it's all ready to go before they sync it back to QuickBooks Online.
Can I ask you a question? The expense categorization, putting those expenses in the right categories, that happens in the Divvy website or in the QuickBooks website when you download the transactions?
It all happens in the mobile app or on the website. So we've found and done a lot of research around the accuracy of data, and we found that the quicker someone goes and categorizes an expense, the more likely that is to be accurate. Think about it as, are you more likely to do the full process if you can just get it done in 10 seconds right after the transaction happens? Or are you more likely to be accurate, 2 months down the road when you have to remember what you made that transaction for or where that receipt was? You're going to be a lot better right off the bat, right? So we found that the quicker the data gets in there, the more accurate it is. So we do it right through the Divvy mobile app or here on the web portal, and then we push all that back to QuickBooks Online with a seamless sync.
And if the mobile user categorizes things wrong, because we know they're not accountants, the finance team or the accounting team or the business owner, whoever's doing the back end stuff, putting it into QuickBooks, they could reclassify it, correct?
Exactly. Super easy to come in here and say, you know what, actually, that wasn't a part of this. We're gonna switch that up. We're gonna change it. Or I don't like this picture of a receipt. I'm gonna send this back to you. And then as soon as they do that, they can even come up and they can lock it. Or they can, if you're an accountant, you can come in and you can mark that transaction as reviewed and know that you've already checked it, approved it, it's all good and ready to be pushed back to QuickBooks Online.
Okay, so let me give you a summary. You tell me if I understood this correctly. So, you guys are a credit card company. You will issue a business credit card to the business to multiple employees. Even within the multiple employees, you can have multiple departments or categories or hats per se that the employee has, and that would be like multiple sub credit cards or virtual credit cards inside of a main credit card. And when the employees go spend this money, they can actually get a physical card, or they can use the mobile app to spool up virtual cards. And depending on the virtual card that they're using and the context of the virtual card, that will help the backend, the accounting, to understand what they were working on, what they were doing, which helps at the end with categorization. On top of that, it doesn't cost anything to the small business owner because you are charging the credit card fee to the merchant that's accepting the credit card payments. And if you want to limit how much money that employee can spend in their entire credit card allowance per se, or the specific reasons or projects or virtual cards, you can limit that and you can manage the budget for that so you can make sure that people are spending the money on what they're supposed to be spending. This works for someone that has one employee or multiple employees. Did I miss anything?
That's exactly right. And you highlighted some of the main reasons why people love Divvy, right? You can set up budgets that put strict requirements on what you can spend and can't spend. Maybe you want to spin up a budget for your marketing team and you want to give them a certain allocation every month. And maybe you've got a couple interns on that team. You can still feel fine giving them a Divvy card because they're only going to have access to what you give them access to. Or we work with a lot of nonprofits who have volunteers, and we can give those volunteers cards that they can request up to certain limits, and you can set a budget for maybe an event or an upcoming project, or even just a specific department every month. And and can be assured that they're not going to go outside that budget. They're not going to spend anything that they shouldn't, and you have complete control over that. And it's going to be really easy for your finance team to keep track of all that as they're going.
And Stephen, if you are tracking expenses by customer, by class, by location, can you categorize that at the Livy level?
Absolutely. So that is a list of custom fields that you can put in. You can put all of those, you could put none of them, or you can put some of them. So you just jump in and you decide what you want to capture on each transaction, who that applies to. So maybe specific categories you have in your chart of accounts only applies to a specific number of employees. You can limit that. Maybe classes only relate to certain employees. Maybe you only need to track billable or client relatable expenses on certain purchases. You could put all that customization into Divvy and manage it so that you know you're getting back exactly the data that you need, nothing more, nothing less.
Stephen, can you go into the Divvy website, show us the experience or how you would sign up for this service?
Absolutely. So let's jump into getdivvy.com. As you jump in, you can come up here and go straight to our sign up page here, or click on get a demo. Either one works. If you're kind of getting a sneak peek at the demo right now. If you choose to jump right in, you can start right away on an application. The application takes about 15 minutes. It's really easy. We don't run a hard pull on your credit. It won't affect your credit score in any way. And you don't even have to be tied to the business line of credit because it is a corporate line. So the application gets you started. And then as soon as you go through, if you have any questions, you can reach out to our team. We'll keep you posted every step of the way. We'll get you approved. and you can get up on Divvy running for free.
Good thing you mentioned the whole credit thing. So you will extend some sort of credit because you make the expenditure and then you have certain amount of time to pay that expenditure from your business cash, correct?
That's right. We have flexible options on how people can choose to set up their credit line. So Divvy is a charge card. It works where you pay down the full balance of that card at the end of every period. But we have flexible periods that allow you to pay it off weekly, twice monthly, or monthly, so that you can manage that cash flow in your business and you're not surprised by anything.
What about the people that say they use their American Express because they get points? So what would people be thinking about when using Divvy or comparing it to a regular credit card where they get points on their purchases?
Absolutely. We know that points are an important part of any credit card program. So Divvy does offer rewards that are meant to uh, compete with other common corporate expense cards. Those points tally up based on how you choose to pay down the card and based on the purchases that you make. And then they're redeemable for cash back, travel, statement credit, or even gift cards if you want to give those out to your employees.
Perfect. Stephen, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys sponsoring the video and sponsoring the course itself so people can get deeper knowledge into QuickBooks Online banking and reconciliations. Thanks again.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you, Hector. Appreciate it.
All right, let's see if we can interject one.